Welcome back to Actual English, everyone. We are slowly approaching the very end of our lessons. We've just got two waiting for us, and today it's time for lesson 393. We have been taking a look at viewers' choice topics, and by this we mean requested topics by who? By you all out there. So it's time for viewers' choice 8, our 8th requested topic, and it being job interviews. People are always interested in this topic, job interviews. And why is that? Because you tend to go to many job interviews. Now, job interviews can be very stressful. A lot of people dread job interviews because it's nerve-wracking. It makes you feel very nervous. Some people are not very good at being themselves or looking confident at job interviews. Whereas some people say, hey, it's a breeze. It's very easy. Just be yourself. As long as you're calm and as long as you relax. What's difficult about job interviews? Well, I guess there isn't a definite answer. It could be easy, it could be hard, but job interviews are definitely something we cannot avoid. Okay, anyhow, with that topic, let's begin with actual talk.
A friend was asking me yesterday about tips for job interviews. She's interviewing for a job next week and she really wants it. So she was asking for advice. And I haven't had an interview in quite some time. So I don't know. What would you recommend?
I don't know. I think we worry way too much about interviews nowadays in terms of getting it perfectly right. I mean, obviously, competition for jobs is a lot higher these days. There's less jobs. There's more people, so it's a negative correlation between the two, which makes it more difficult. But I think there are some basic rules that when you're interviewing,
which would be
simply look smart,
be
on time.
Yes, that's huge.
Be knowledgeable of the situation and the job that you're interviewing for. And apart from that, I think you should just learn to relax.
Right. I think a big part of it is being yourself. Go in and just be comfortable, be yourself. I was thinking one thing that I found really helpful is when the interviewer asks a question, it's okay to take a deep breath and think about the answer. You don't have to answer right away.
No.
It's okay to take a moment, gather your thoughts, and then answer.
It shows that you're considerate of the situation rather than just breezing an answer out there.
Right.
I actually went for an interview, this is a while ago now, a good few years ago, for a tyre company.
Okay.
And I had fortunately, before going in, about a week before, had got my tyres changed.
Okay.
And I'd had to ask for a tyre. And the man told me what tyre he was putting on the car. In the interview, the interviewer asked me, what tyres are on your car?
Oh my gosh, so you had the information.
And I had the answer. Pure blind luck.
Oh, wow,
but it taught me
amazing.
one thing, that be knowledgeable of what it is that you're going for.
Do
and
a
then
little
you
homework.
Will be exactly that.
Yeah.
Today, Martin and Mary talked about job interviews. They talked about some advice, some tips when it comes to going to a job interview. So as the person that is going to be questioned at an interview, yes, you can feel very nervous. Some things that they mentioned was about what? A couple were, for example, number 1, being confident, being knowledgeable, being considerate, and thinking, taking the time to think before you spit out answers to questions easily. Yes, because why? The interviewer can tell if you're nervous or not, if you're being truthful or not, all right? They are professionals. They do this all the time. So let's take a look at some tips that Martin and Mary have given us. Here we go. Mary says, a friend was asking me yesterday about what? About tips for job interviews. So he or she was asking Mary about tips for job interviews. Advice. She's interviewing for a job next week and she really wants it, meaning she wants it, she wants the job. So she was asking for advice. All right. What would you recommend? So she's asking Martin what he would recommend. which kinds of tips or what kinds of tips he would give his friend if someone asked him about tips regarding job interviews. I don't know, he says. I think we worry way too much. Way too much is just a way of saying too much. He's emphasizing, he's stressing that people need not worry too much, but they worry way too much, okay? About interviews nowadays in terms of getting it perfectly right. That's right. Because people want to get it perfectly right. Meaning, people want to do perfectly job interviews. They don't want to make a single mistake. That's why he thinks people worry too much about job interviews. It's needless, but people worry too much. Obviously, competition for jobs is a lot higher these days. Now, competition for something can be high. Okay? Now, if you say competition is high, it means that there is fierce competition. There is a lot of competition. A lot of people are competing against each other. So yes, competition is very high. Competition for jobs is a lot higher these days. Why? He explains. There's less jobs. Of course, it should have been there are, but it's commonly said as this. There are less jobs and the same. There are more people. That's the problem. Less jobs, but more people. That is why competition for jobs is very high. So there is a negative correlation between the two, which makes it more difficult. All right. Between the two we're talking about what? Less jobs, more people. We're comparing these two. Okay? He's talking about less jobs and more people. High competition. So he says there is a negative correlation. That's one of our vocab words. Correlation is like a connection between things, a link, something that connects things. Link, connection. These are synonyms for correlation. So he's saying there is a negative connection or a negative relationship, a negative link between the two. Once again, meaning less jobs and more people, which makes it more difficult. That's true. It makes it a lot more difficult to get a job these days. But, he says, I think there are some basic rules. He begins to mention something about basic rules, and then Mary says, which would be? Meaning, so, tell me what those basic rules are. He says, quite simply, it's not difficult. Look smart. Be on time. Okay. So these are some basic rules, some basic tips that Martin is giving us regarding job interviews. He says, well, it's simple, quite simply. Look smart, look intelligent, look confident, for example. Okay. So number one of the basic rules is to look smart. Number two, perhaps, or another basic rule is to be on time. This may be easy for some of you out there, but to be on time means what? To be punctual, to arrive at a certain location or destination or place as scheduled, at that time, or even before the deadline or before the given time. You are on time. So it's the opposite of being late, I guess. So if you make an appointment and they say be here by 3, okay? If you are there exactly at 3 o'clock or before 3 o'clock, you are there on time. If you are there at 3:01, you are not on time, okay? So we're talking about being there at the given time or even before that time. That's to be on time. So look smart and be on time. These are some basic rules. Yes, that's huge. Huge meaning what? Huge is commonly mentioned in many of our conversations. Huge could mean that it's popular, something is popular, or in this case it means that it is huge, meaning it is very important. Okay? So she's saying, yeah, those two things are huge. They're important. Martin says, be knowledgeable of the situation and the job that you're interviewing for. I think this is a great piece of tip. Okay, that's a vocab word. Be knowledgeable of the situation and the job that you're interviewing for. So, what is knowledgeable? Knowledgeable is basically to know, okay? To have a clear understanding of all the different facts of a particular subject. To make it easier for you to understand. Being knowledgeable means to be well informed. To know all about a certain or a particular subject, okay? So to have more knowledge, to have a lot of knowledge means to be knowledgeable. So he says, be knowledgeable of the situation and the job, perhaps the company that you're interviewing at. And apart from that, or in addition to that, I think you should just learn to relax. That's right. Relaxing is, I think, very important as well. Because imagine if you were the interviewer and someone walks into the room to be interviewed by you and he or she looks nervous, they don't know what to do. Would you think that this person is good for any job? Would you rather choose someone that walks in confidently, very relaxed? Or would you choose someone to work for your company that's very nervous? So he says, learn to relax. It's also very important. Right. I think a big part of it is being yourself. Let's take a look at this pattern as well. To be oneself, okay? If somebody says to you, be yourself, what does it mean? Be yourself. Think. Be yourself. It means to be you. Not anybody else, but be you, okay? So to be oneself means to act in your own fashion, the way you usually do. Speak the way you usually speak, okay? Be yourself and do not pretend to be somebody else, okay? If you don't know about something, don't act like you know about it. Just be yourself, okay? That means, right, be your 100%. And then she says, go in and just be comfortable. It's very similar to being, relaxing. And she says, being yourself. One thing that I found really helpful is when the interviewer asks a question. So when the interviewer asks a question, she says, it's okay to take a deep breath, breathe, and think about the answer. Okay, so this is when the interviewer asks a question. Take a deep breath, breathe, okay? And think about the answer. Think about it. Take a few moments to think. Think about the answer. And then she also says, it's okay to take a moment, meaning take time. Gather your thoughts. Gather meaning collect, put together. Gather your thoughts and then answer. So what is she saying here? Mary is saying that in an interview, when you are asked a question, don't push yourself, don't rush yourself. Take your time, relax, be comfortable. Think about the question and answer. Take a moment, meaning take your time, gather, collect. Collect the information, think about it, and then answer those questions. And Martin agrees. He says, yes, it shows that you're considerate of the situation rather than just breezing an answer out. So here we've got a vocab word and a pattern. Here we go. By doing this, by doing what Mary has mentioned, if you take a moment, think about the answer, it shows that you're considerate. Considerate is what? Okay, let's say, for example, if somebody is considerate, or if you say that he or she is considerate, it means that he or she pays attention to other people's feelings, their opinions, their thoughts, okay, and they respect those feelings and thoughts and ideas. So if you pay attention to other people's feelings and thoughts and opinions, you're being considerate. It's very similar to being kind, okay? We'll go over that word later on. So he's saying that, it shows that you're considerate of the situation rather than just breezing an answer out. Now, breeze, it's like a slight wind, but breeze out itself. If you put these two words together, breeze out, it means to take a break. Informal, okay? Means casually to take a break. As in a class, okay, you can take a break. Hey, let's breeze out. It means let's take a break, okay? But if you breeze an answer out, it means to answer a question very quickly without thinking much, okay? So that's what he means by that. Okay, and then let's slowly move on to the last part of our conversation. I actually went for an interview. He's talking about his experience. This was a while ago, a good few years ago, for a tire company. Okay, so Martin went in for an interview at a tire company, and he says, and I had fortunately, luckily, before going in, about a week before, gotten my tires changed. So he had his tires changed. All right? I had asked for a tire, and the man told me what tire he was putting on the car. All right, and then what happened? Now, at the interview, he says, in the interview, the interviewer asked me, what tires are on your car? Okay? And he just had his tires changed. So when he was asked this question, what happened? He had the information. He says, I had the answer, meaning I knew the answer. Pure blind luck. He was saying, it's pure luck. I was so lucky. But it taught me one thing, meaning he learned one thing. Being knowledgeable of what it is that you're going for. Okay. So he's saying, through experience, he was lucky, okay, that he had his tires changed. So he knew exactly what his tires were, what kind of tires his car had. So he was able to answer that question very easily. He knew the information. He had the information. So finally, Mary says, yep, do your homework. All right, finally, do your homework means what? We're not talking about doing one's homework from school, but often when you say do your homework, it means do your research. Do your research. Look for all the information you can, and that means do your homework. So everyone, if you are looking forward to, or if you have a scheduled job interview, make sure you do your homework. Okay, let's take a listen one more time.
A friend was asking me yesterday about tips for job interviews. She's interviewing for a job next week, and she really wants it. So she was asking for advice. And I haven't had an interview in quite some time. So I don't know. What would you recommend?
I don't know. I think we worry way too much about interviews nowadays in terms of getting it perfectly right. I mean, obviously, competition for jobs is a lot higher these days. There's less jobs. There's more people, so it's a negative correlation between the two, which makes it more difficult. But I think there are some basic rules that when you're interviewing,
which would be
simply look smart, be on time.
Yes, that's huge.
Be knowledgeable of the situation and the job that you're interviewing for. And apart from that, I think you should just learn to relax.
Right. I think a big part of it is being yourself. Go in and just be comfortable, be yourself. I was thinking one thing that I found really helpful is when the interviewer asks a question, it's okay to take a deep breath and think about the answer. You don't have to answer right away.
No.
It's okay to take a moment, gather your thoughts, and then answer.
It shows that you're considerate of the situation rather than just breezing an answer out there.
Right.
I actually went for an interview, this is a while ago now, a good few years ago, for a tire company.
Okay.
And I had fortunately, before going in, about a week before, had got my tires changed.
Okay.
And I'd had to ask for a tire. And the man told me what tire he was putting on the car. In the interview, the interviewer asked me, what tires are on your car?
Oh my gosh, so you had the information.
And I had the answer pure blind luck.
Oh, wow,
but it taught me
amazing.
one thing, that be knowledgeable of what it is that you're going for.
Do
and
a
then
little
you
homework.
will be exactly that.
Yeah.
Now let's take you to actual expressions, everyone. Let's review what we just learned from actual talk. Here we have 3 vocab words for you today. The first one is correlation. Let's practice the pronunciation. As you see, the stress goes on the 3rd syllable. It's correlation. Correlation. One more time. Correlation. It means connection, link, relationship. Okay? What about knowledgeable? Think about knowledge. Knowledgeable. If you're knowledgeable, you're conscious of many different things. You're familiar, well informed of all the different facts about a particular subject. Okay? Moving on. Considerate. Here we go. Considerate. Considerate. I think it is important for everybody to be considerate. If you're considerate, you are concerned. Concerned of what? You pay attention to, or you are concerned of other people's feelings, their wishes, their needs, okay? So these are some other synonyms for considerate. Generous is another good one, okay? Okay, to be on time, as I mentioned. To be on time means to arrive somewhere at the scheduled time, to not be late. Make sure to be on time for the interview. Meaning, don't be late for the interview. Let's practice one more time. Make sure to be on time for the interview. Don't be late. Be there on time as scheduled or before that time. Moving on to be oneself. As I told you, if you act in your own fashion, as you always do, and you don't pretend to be somebody else, you are being yourself. It's important to be yourself in a job interview. Don't pretend to be who you are not. Be yourself. And finally, we've got breeze an answer out or breeze out an answer. Okay, the order can change slightly. It's fine. You can choose either of these. Breeze an answer out means to quickly answer a question without thinking much. Okay, just spit out an answer. Breezing out answers to interview questions won't leave a good impression. They'll most likely leave a bad impression. Okay? So please do keep these patterns and vocab words in mind. Practice them more. Got a job well done.